I'd have known you were recording it, I would have put the makeup on.
Oh, Mark. You're looking beautiful.
Just finished football.
So just to go, so a big welcome, just to go through the plan for today. Obviously we've got an hour and a half together, so I want to manage expectations. This is just the start. This is just an initial kind of sense of what this project's about. And really a part of that is just to meet each other. Some of you will know lots of other people in this group, some won't, and to get to know the existing project team, which will continue to expand, and people that are potentially going to be on the community board, which is many of you. To get an introduction to the project. So again, you know, it's going to be a bit of a sort of sit and hold on to your seats, initial introduction to what the project aims are and the key partners, but the slide deck will be shared as well after this, as will notes. And for those of you that like detail, you can read the whole bid, the executive summary, or you can have whatever level of detail you want. But this is just to give you a taste. And then to have a discussion, which we'll do in breakout rooms, because there's about 20, 25 of us. So we'll have smaller breakout discussions with a focus on going, okay, you know, does it make sense? The vision and aims, are they clear? Are there things that aren't clear? And any key questions, anything that you're concerned about, what you're excited about? This is really important to help us think about how we then share it, all of us, take it out and share it with others. What is the community board? What are its roles and responsibilities, its ways of working? Again, we're not going to be able to go through all of that. It's just initial sense of, does this make sense? Get a kind of sense check amongst us around membership, etc., ahead of the next meeting. And then start to think about that broader engagement. So how do we make sure that this does feel inclusive? How do we engage others? How do we really start to make sure this feels completely community focused, owned? But hopefully you got to have a quick hello to somebody you might not have known. I know some people definitely knew the other person, and Sam has briefly had a moment of reflection on his own. If there's anything anything that's going to get in that needs to be addressed for you to be able to participate in the next hour and 15 minutes, then pop it in chat. If it's something confidential, just send it to me. If there's anything that's going to get in the way of you getting what you want out of this session, share it. If there's anything in particular that you want out of it that you don't think has already been covered in that brief kind of summary of the agenda, then again pop it into chat, and we can do our best. And I'm going to hand over to Claire and the team to now give you an overview of what this is all about.
Put myself off mute. Okay, so I'm going to basically run through what we pitched to the lottery, and then the partners will talk through sections of what we're going to do and a bit about practicalities, and then we'll go into some other sessions that Eve has got planned. So this is what we have in Chorlton, and maybe this is what we want more of: more trees and green space and fewer cars. And so the heart of our project is about how can we bring down carbon emissions from cars in Chorlton, and especially for short journeys. And we know that if we do that, that will make Chorlton a safer, greener, less polluted and less congested place. So this is what we pitched to the lottery. Why here and now? Well, we saw in lockdown that, you know, when you reduce traffic levels, the community have now seen kind of what is possible. Eve has talked about the art of the possible. Traffic is now back up, but perhaps we've seen what's possible and what communities can be like when traffic is reduced. But we also saw in COVID, in the heart of lockdown, you know, the real strengths of Chorlton coming through, whether that was through the community response groups, our connection to our green space, or our support for our local traders. So perhaps COVID has seen kind of Chorlton at its best in many ways. That definitely includes independent traders, which are the, you know, in some ways the lifeblood of Chorlton and a really original feature. And we know in COVID, a lot more people are shopping locally and intend to carry on doing so. That is good news for the economy. It's part of our Chorlton Economic Recovery Plan that the councils have been involved in, but it's also good for our carbon emissions because it means less transport, less car journeys. These were some quotes from a survey we did with the Chorlton Bike Delivery Scheme and about about the scheme, but it really threw up a lot of evidence of that change of behaviour. So you'll see some of the comments here, you know, I don't want to go back to shopping in large supermarkets. I want to use my local shops and businesses and spend money locally. And there's a real connection between spending money locally and reducing car journeys. Why do we need to reduce car journeys? Well, that is because transport accounts for about a third of carbon emissions in Manchester, and that proportion is growing. And we now have a climate action plan that, and we are a leader in action in the country, and that commits us to halving our carbon emissions in the next 5 years, and that includes this year. So we really do need to make headway on our car journeys. But it's also something that's popular in the community, or certainly the people that we've spoken to so far as part of the climate action planning that the councillors have led. So these are some quotes from the Chorlton Ward Climate Action Workshop, where the most popular subjects were basically more green space and fewer cars and more walking and cycling. And in the Chorlton Park Ward, there was also a big focus on communication and engagement, especially with traders. And so all of that has been built into this bid. And to be fair, in Chorlton, we do have the ability to make significant change here because we are high owners of cars. About 3/4 of households across the two wards have one car or more, and that's much, much higher than the average in Manchester. And we know that a third of all journeys of a kilometre or less in Manchester are driven. So we're not talking about not driving long journeys, but how can we help people not drive those short journeys, the school run to the shops, etc. And if we do that, we know there are real economic benefits. There's masses of evidence out there that increasing local journeys on foot and bike increases local spend. It's one reason why Deansgate is being pedestrianised in the city centre. We also know that Chorlton has this kind of, severe sort of bisection by two big main roads that really sort of damages the heart of our community, and we know that's something that we want to do something about. But also opportunity. We've got a cycleway being built from Chorlton to the city centre that's being speeded up as a result of the emergency active travel funding the government has released, and it should be finished by the end of next year. And the scheme in Oxford Road release more than 1 million cycle journeys a year, and something similar could happen to Chorlton. So how can we really activate that cycleway? But we also live in this brilliant community where we're already taking a lot of action, and we want this project to really galvanise that and give it a sort of fulcrum. We saw loads of stuff happening during COVID, whether it was the street groups or the food banks, and schemes already underway, the funeral care home raising all that money, the men in sheds, the school bikes, what are they called, Eve? Bike buses to school, lots and lots of grassroots projects already happening. And I counted up the other day, we've got over 12 friends of groups basically nurturing and protecting our green spaces in their own time in conjunction with the council officers. So that's the kind of the summary of why we in Chorlton are ready to be invested in by the lottery. It's a 12-month project that is focused on understanding how we can reduce emissions from cars and begin to make that change. It's a development bid. It's £200,000, which sounds a lot, but it isn't a lot in the scheme of things. So it's about how can we lay groundwork for the future. Those are the 4 bodies involved: Walk Ride Greater Manchester, Groundwork, Open Data and Sustrans. And I'm now going to hand over to, I'll just quickly summarise what that funding enables us to do. We have to agree with the lottery what they're giving us the money for. It's not a blank cheque. So what we've agreed in summary is this: that we'll create a project team to run the project based in Chorlton, in a base, lots of public engagement. This is a discovery project. How can we reduce carbon emissions from transport in Chorlton? Lots of data gathering, and these 3 mini pilot projects that I think are the most exciting part of the project probably. So that's working with a school, that's working with a residential street, and working with a high street and traders to see if we can bring how we would go about bringing down car journeys. Emphasising that community engagement and discovery is our focus for this 1-year project. So that's where this board really comes in. We want the board to act as one of the ways that we really connect and spread this halo out to the community. And another key thing to pick out here is that we feel that our target audience, and this is something we want to work with the board on, really is the sort of general public. It's not the people who are already actively engaged and advocating. We need to reach the people who aren't already sold on this subject, and including proactively reaching out to groups that particularly different diverse groups. So we think this can really, although it's a small development fund project, we feel this can really act as a leverage for greater impact and for some of those schemes and groups that are active in Chorlton. And the board can really help with that. One example of that is, so we do have funding for a project base, which we would envisage as in our sort of a blue sky scenario would be a lovely empty shop in somewhere in Chorlton with high footfall that we could turn into not just an office space, but somewhere where people could drop in and find out about how they can take action themselves, whether it's around retrofit or solar panels or anything, not just to do with transport. That's just a little example. So now just going to go through what the different partners will be doing. I'm going to start with Open Data Manchester, might be the one that you've not heard of, and they've got a really innovative approach, which Julian is going to talk through now.
All right. Hi everybody, my name is Julian from Open Data Manchester, and I'm here with Sam Milson, my colleague who will be running a lot of the workshops that we'll be doing. So we're a not-for-profit that was set up out of a community of people who wanted to do good things with data. So this is kind of people who were working in the digital industry, people who are activists, journalists, people who worked in the public sector, and also in academia as well. So what we do generally is we try and raise the skills and awareness within communities so that they can start to understand a little bit more and try and affect change within their communities. So we do this through different types of workshops. Sometimes we do things where we kind of look at getting people to explore the environment which they're in and start to take note of that. And we generally try and make things as inclusive as possible. And so what we'll be doing is so we want to kind of try and understand what it's like at the moment, what Chorlton's like at the moment with regards to air quality, car use, etc. And so we're kind of going to be using that to kind of see if there's any change through the project. But more importantly, is working with groups of Chorlton residents to help to encourage them and enable them to go out and collect that data themselves. So we'll be doing kind of traffic surveys, doing some kind of trader surveys as well. But it's about getting people to take ownership of the data and the information that's about their environment. So it's like using different techniques, and hopefully through the course of the project, more and more people will be able to use that information and actually make change. And that's how we're going to be working within the project.
Thanks, Julian. So yeah, really innovative approach that I think is really exciting. So now I'm going to hand to Alice, who's from Sustrans, to talk through their role in the project.
Thanks, Claire. Hello, everyone. So yeah, I'm from Sustrans, maybe a familiar name to some of you, possibly not to others. So we're a national charity based all around the UK, but there's a big friendly bunch of us here in the north of England, loosely based around sort of Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds and Newcastle. And I'm based here in Chorlton. Yeah, our mission's a really simple one. It's to make it easier for people to walk and cycle. Those pictures give a flavour of some of the ways we try and do that. We work in schools, workplaces, communities. We've got engineers amongst us, urban designers, and lots of lovely volunteers. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the little blue and red sign. Sustrans is the custodian of the National Cycle Network, which is a network of about 16,000 miles of paths around the UK. And we've got lots of lovely volunteers that look after that land. Here in Manchester, some of you might know the Fallowfield Loop, and we actually own that land and maintain it ourselves, and that's part of the National Cycle Network. So yeah, it's a little bit of flavour of what Sustrans, very whistle-stop tour of what Sustrans does. Claire, do you want to put the next slide on and talk about what we're going to do here in Chorlton? So here, yeah, Claire talked about 3 mini projects. Sustrans can be working on the schools project, which I'm really excited about. So we're going to be looking at the street first from a child's eye perspective. So working with pupils, going out, looking at the street, looking at the way they get to school, getting them to tell us about it, and then taking their ideas and sitting down with parents and talking about it. And then our urban designers will be sitting down with big maps, and as you can see, plasticine and all kinds of things there, to think about how the street could be designed differently outside the school, and then again taking those ideas to first parents and then to the local community. And the bit I love the most, and which we'll hopefully have time and manage to do in Chorlton, is then to test it out and actually make those changes on the street for a day or several days, and get people to tell us, well, to experience how it feels. Does it work? So yeah.
Thanks, Alice. And now I'm going to hear from Michaela from Groundwork.
Hi everybody. So Groundwork is a local charity, but lots of you will have seen it perhaps up and down the country because we're part of a national federation, but very much locally focused, working across Greater Manchester. And people oftentimes know us as the environmental charity. We like to say that we're a community charity with a focus on environment. Subtle difference, but the bottom line is we're about people. Particularly though the connection between people and the place where they are, whether it's living, working or having fun or whatever we're doing. So you can see here on the left, these are our different programme areas, if you like. The community engagement work we do runs through everything that we do. So we have a team of landscape architects who work with communities perhaps to redesign some unsatisfactory space or some space that they just want to make nicer. And we do that working with the community and the landscape architects, but our landscape architects are good at community engagement. Our trainers who work on the training programme are good at community engagement, and that's the golden thread really that runs through everything we do. So on this project, we're doing some exciting things, and I think perhaps some not exciting things behind the scenes that you don't really need to know too much about at this point. But the exciting things we're doing is we're working on 2 of the mini projects, the residential street and the high street. And our approach is very much in keeping with the ethos that you've got really within Chorlton and the other work that you do. And we come and we listen first off. And then we work together either with the people who live on the street or the traders on the high street to explore what's working and what isn't working and what aspirations everybody's got. And then we'll do planning together. So we'll come with some ideas or things that have worked elsewhere, and so will you. And we'll look at those together and then hopefully get ourselves a little plan of action together and do the doing, which is where the fun comes in always. And then the boring stuff we're doing is Groundwork is officially the accountable body for this piece of work. It's a lottery thing really, that makes no difference to us other than we hold the money, which I guess would make a difference to some, and we're responsible legally for this, so we've had to sign off the agreements and so on. That's just because the lottery need one organisation out of a partnership with whom they'll correspond in the main, and they'll do all their legal stuff. But in the spirit of transparency, obviously we do that all together, and everything's clear for everybody to see, and we share all the documents and so on and so forth. And then our third role in this is kind of related to that. So we've done a lot of work with the lottery at Groundwork in the past, so we've got a track record that they will recognise, I guess. And what we're hoping to do is make sure that Groundwork steps back from some of that boring stuff during the lifetime of this programme and enable the community to step forward into that place, so that you then become the legal and financial guardians of the next project, because we very much see this as our first step. We would like a bigger, flashier, far more ambitious, bigger bucks project to follow this. So obviously we need this to be a success. And at that point, it's when Groundwork steps back and goes back into its fun day job, and hopefully everybody in the partnership and the community can pick up that baton for the next round. Claire?
Thanks, Michaela. And then the fourth partner is Walk Ride Greater Manchester, which is where I come in. And we are a grassroots campaign and advocacy network. We only set up at the end of 2018, and we exist to campaign to make walking and cycling the natural choice in Greater Manchester. We're also a community interest company, and two of our directors live in Chorlton, as does the company secretary, Charles, who you may meet in future meetings. Where we fit in, what we'll be doing, one of the big areas of focus for Walk Ride is on internal and external communications, and a big part of that will be what platforms do we need, what website, what social media, particularly, as I said, with a view to who are we trying to reach with this project, and each of the projects, mini projects, will have different audience focus. So a key area of work, which will be kind of front loaded along with the data stuff, is this audience work. You know, we can't really come up with even a logo before we've thought about who we're trying to reach, and at the moment we haven't gone into that in detail, but it's very much the non-active and the non-engaged. How can we activate those people, and what are the triggers and the blockers? So that's a key area for us to explore with the board further down the track. We will act to provide sort of general project cohesion. Obviously there's 4 partners, and so my role, for instance, would be sort of helping support the partnership as a whole. And we also have a role connecting into the wider sort of active travel and activist network, bringing learning in from outside. So I'm talking to a lot of the communities around the country which are introducing low traffic neighbourhoods as a result of the emergency funding, and as are Sustrans, and also share that back out, which is a key focus of the lottery. So, and then there's a 5th point, which is a sort of unknown partner, which is the partner of learning as we go. So we want the ethos of the project to be, you know, we've got huge investment in actually the data gathering. So we want to be able to react to what we find out, what the community tell us. So I really wanted to emphasize that in this presentation. Where are we at the moment? We are in this grey bit at the end of 2020, which is the setup phase. So we've basically given ourselves to the end of the year to do all this stuff in there, set the project up legally, recruit the team, and the project doesn't start on the ground until January. And I quite like that sort of new year, that new year kind of feeling, new year, new leaf, but also it gives us a bit of time to sort things out, although that time will go like that. One of the focuses of the partnership is on all of this stuff, which Michaela is really helping us with. I'm not going to go through it, but there's a lot of overheads with being a lottery funded project. It's a significant investment from public sector organisation. One of them is that they may want to come to some of our meetings. So the lovely case officer, Rianne, may join us here now and again. But just to summarise the sort of 3 immediate priority areas, one is recruiting the team, and we have 2 roles out being advertised at the moment, and we've got some asks of you later on. The partnership, so we've got to sort out all that internal mechanisms. The key one being creating a more detailed timeline of the works, because that enables us to plan the funding phasing. And then the 3rd priority area is this group, the community board, forming and formalising, and hopefully feeling excited about the project and shaping it, because what I've gone through there is really what we've gone through with the lottery. You can see there's some detail there, but you know, this isn't, it's there to be shaped. So that is hopefully giving you a flavour of what it is that we've got funding to do and the opportunity that we've got.
Thank you. So that's your whistle-stop tour. And what we'd do is just to go into breakout rooms to kind of go, well, how sense check really from what you've heard. There's got a lot of information there. You know, are you feeling infused or confused? What are you excited about? What are you anxious about? What are the key questions where you think more clarity is needed? And this will really help all of us again in thinking about how we then kind of really cascade this out and engage others. So I'm going to open breakouts. There will be somebody in each of the breakout rooms who is one of the partners, one of the funded partners, who's just introduced themselves, who will help just facilitate through that and also take some notes But it is also just an opportunity again to just hear from each other. So do make sure that everybody gets to be heard, and all obviously perspectives and questions are valued and respected. So I'm going to open rooms, and I'm going to give us just cut the time down a little bit to 12 minutes, if that's okay, so we can make up some time. So 12 minutes in breakout rooms, and then we'll come back together again. Looks like you're busy scribbling away there, Michaela. 10 minutes goes quickly, particularly at 8:30 on a Wednesday evening.
Into a document at the same time as listening to people. Just can't do that.
Me neither, Michaela. I can't stick to time. I can't type at the same time as listening.
So I've copied some of the comments and some of the groups into the chat just to get a flavour again, but that's not all of them. To give you a sense of what some of the key questions were that were coming out. I guess one there is very much about what is the distinction between the community board and the partners, and I guess my simple understanding is that, you know, the funded partners, project workers, would come and sort of report to effectively the board, for the board to make sure that it really is community owned and it's serving the needs of Chorlton. And that the other function really is obviously the partners, the funded partners. Sorry, I've just seen that a couple of people hadn't joined us back. The funded partners obviously are in the end funded to do a specific project, which is in line with what we've bid for, and it's quite tightly controlled. The aim is that this is a partnership community board that actually can think broader than that. It can look to attract additional funding, other opportunities that maybe don't need funding, and can take a more long-term view on actually what do we want to do, and use just that initial pot as a springboard for further action. So there's a few of those distinctions, but what we'll do is we'll take, rather than attempt to answer questions now, we've got those notes, and we can share after this as well some further reflections, and some of it certainly we won't have answers to, because a lot of it are very good questions that we need to work through in future sessions. So conscious of time, I'm going to move on to the next question. Do feel free to share thoughts, ideas in chat, and continue discussion really in the chat box. The next question that we really wanted to move on to is, as a key role of all of us, regardless of whether or not you end up wanting to sit on the community board or not, is really to think about how we open up this conversation and participation far more broadly. So obviously there's lots of people that are missing from this virtual room, and there is a very real risk that we could continue, particularly now in COVID time, maybe more than ever, to do a project that isn't actually owned by everybody in the community. So really want you to think about, what do you think in a solutions focused way, what can we do to make sure that we engage starting from now with people, that we involve people, that people are heard, that we really encourage a diversity of different perspectives. As Claire said early on, it isn't about just kind of going to the existing coalition of the willing. It really is about challenging and influencing and being influenced ourselves along the way. So I'm going to say, given time, 10 minutes. If you want to, if you want to start thinking about that and share, either just turn your mic on and talk, or share in chat before putting some breakouts. Now we'll just mix the breakouts out so people get to meet different people as well, which will just take me a minute. So feel free to start to offer some feedback in the main room.
Within our group, Eve, I mean, we did start having conversations about, actually within the first breakout session, about about the representation of people who perhaps don't normally participate in a scheme such as this. So people maybe people who are in poverty, who aren't able to participate because they don't have the latest bikes, or they feel excluded from that whole process. And I think it was Wendy from Southway mentioned, is kind of they do try and encourage residents to actually be part of that decision-making process, and it does create a different kind of flavour. Not trying to steal Wendy's words.
It's fine.
Yeah.
You didn't steal them. It's fine. But I think it is important. It's a different perspective, isn't it? And I think it engages, and then you can bring in a whole different community as well. And sort of part of that transparency, I think it helps with that side of things. We find the feedback from our residents invaluable because they have a completely different viewpoint on a lot of things that we're looking at. And, you know, the sense that comes with it is just something that we'd be lost without, quite honestly.
Absolutely. It's about grounding it, isn't it, in the realities of people's lives, and some people's lives who we don't necessarily, will not necessarily engage on a board, or unless we shift the way that we work and the culture of working and the way that we operate. So I think the success of this project relies on us doing that. And there's no easy answers, are there really? But there's certainly more we can do.
No,
So
I don't think there are, but sorry. Oh, go on. I think it's more to do with the fact that encouraging people from other areas as well just makes such a massive difference, because then you bring in a whole community that are not involved in this specific group as well. And it can be quite a frightening experience for people, sort of the word of a board and all the rest of it. But the work that we've done with residents over a long period of time, you know, we've got a really successful sort of group of people that talk quite openly.
I think that's why having people involved who then have those networks and relationships and can bring other people on board, because it is all about trust. Change moves at the speed of trust, really, and we all need to be building that up. So I'm going to open, I've jigged the rooms around so people hopefully get to meet some different people and hear different voices, and I'll open the rooms and just be back at 10 to, so that's 7 minutes to just carry that conversation on and think about, okay, so what can we do? And that might be about language. It might be about format, it might be about the ways that, again, we work alongside others to include.
It was just getting interesting.
We were cruelly cut off. I was going to do a better thing of managing time, and I failed again.
And you just sorted it, just solved it, just come to the
Dave was mid-flow, but Dave, do feel free to put it in chat.
Yeah, well, feel free, if you were cut off mid-flow, do add to the chat any further thoughts, please, any further suggestions.
That should be our strap line, more than just the classic middle-class white Chorltonite.
You can have that painted across the shop front, wherever that ends up. So I know that was brief, and I know it's hard being in midway in conversations, and there's a lot to get through. As ever, we wanted to balance the not wanting to demand another 2 hours of people on Zoom with wanting to try and kind of start this conversation with a great group of people. So hopefully it's at least given you a sense of what it's all about, and enough of a sense to be excited and to get involved, and to encourage others to get involved too.
So there are some things that we need to push on with, and we wanted to sort of get people's help with if possible. So the first one is that we've got 2 job adverts out, and I'm assuming Eve's going to send a follow-up email, so we'll put the link into that. But we'd really love your help, particularly in regards to the conversation about diversity and inclusion, that those adverts, that advert is shared as widely as possible, so that, you know, right from the start of recruitment, we're trying to reach different places with that advert. The second thing is that, again,
before you go on, Claire, hang on, because I think it's worth just saying what the time scale of that is, the recruitment.
Timescale is the job advert closes on Monday the 28th of September, so there's another 2 to 3 weeks for people to apply for that, and the application is a CV and a kind of covering letter. It's not an application form, so hopefully that makes it a bit easier. And me and Michaela are both free for informal chats before the interviews. The second ask is for someone from this group, or a recommendation of someone else, to join our interview panel. So the interviews we've scheduled to take place Tuesday the 14th and Wednesday the 15th of October. Because there are 2 roles, we should probably interview, you know, if it's a good field, maybe 8 people. So it's probably going to be, you know, up to fullish days. So that's an ask. And the moment the panel is myself and Michaela, so again with diversity and inclusion in mind, someone who doesn't look like us would be good. The third ask is talking about the the kind of vision for a base in Chorlton that is more than just an office space, but is somewhere that could act as a drop-in on the high street for wider climate information and engagement. You know, if there are volunteers on this call be willing to help the search for that, that would be great, particularly from the trading community. I have had a couple of, I did mention this on the trader call last week, and so I am talking to some people already, but you know, I'm not a trader, so that would be helpful. And then obviously forming the board is the big ask of the group. So, you know, who can be involved, how can you be involved, and how do you make sure that you are as diverse as has come out on this call. 3 things to flag up kind of down the track. The first one, you don't need to decide this now, but basically these 3 mini project locations, we have 3 kind of proposed locations, but that is a real test of kind of how we want to involve the community. So deciding where those locations are, which school, which high street, which residential street, this group front and centre with that. Second point is, before we can decide what kind of platforms we're going to use, what kind of look and feel for our graphics, or even a name, if we're going to have a name for the project that isn't just the partnership, then we need to specify our audience. So we're going to do some work on that and present that to the board, and that needs to be done, you know, in the next couple of months. So input on that and feedback on that. And then the work that Julian will be doing on data collection, help with how we recruit that kind of important cohort of people, and it's a key way to get people engaged in the project. So those are the sort of things coming down the track. We don't need your help with anything above the line. Please help now. Anything below the line, marking your card for later.
Great. So as I've put in chat, we'll share details of those asks and any links, plus the slides as well that we've shared. And I know some of you, but not all of you, will have seen the kind of initial bid document summary version, so that as well. And please do, if there's more that you want, feel free to ask. It's all there for the taking, and to look through. We just don't want to overwhelm you with too much. There is a longer bid, so I've realised that what we didn't, I don't think, refer to is the original application was actually for 2.5 million, which was the biggest fund that you could apply for. So there is a longer bid, which is for the full 2.5 million, which was for a 5-year plan. The feedback we got from the lottery after various iterations and conversations all during the lockdown period was that really would be better to go for this initial development fund in order to really build the community partnership. And some real strengths in that, because what we felt was the biggest weakness in the bid was there wasn't an existing strong partnership that actually reflected the values and ways of working in place in Chorlton, to really take this forward. So this really is about helping create that now, with the opportunity that in 12 months time we can then look to apply for further funding up to a maximum of 2.5 million to potentially then take it further forward. Obviously there's no promises around that, and maybe we don't need those resources, so I don't think that should be the aim. The aim is to deliver the biggest impact in line with what the community says they want to do. So we'll share all the information. Please come back with any questions. Hopefully now at least you put more faces to names, you've got a flavour of it, hopefully you're a bit excited about it, hopefully it feels like in the midst of everything else there's something, green shoots that we can water, and we can start having that kind of chat with people. Do get in touch, please challenge, please, you know, do all those things, because that's what it's about, and encourage others to get involved and to do the same. And we'll look at then holding a further meeting. And I guess what would be good is to then go, if you are interested in sitting on the community board, please let us know, and then we can agree times and dates if that's the next meeting, and also agree length, recognising the challenges tonight of not being long enough, but also, you know, Zoom fatigue and all the rest of it. If you think that actually there's somebody else that maybe would really help better serve on the community board because of their personal professional expertise, then again, please put forward, and if there's suggestions about maybe kind of how we support and work with others and include others, again, please come back to us. So thank you all for coming here on your Wednesday night and so late in the day. I hope you've got some something out of it. I'm saving the notes now because a lot of good stuff in that chat that I definitely don't want to lose. And thank you. Please let's at least do it. Smiles and waves and goodbye, and you know, a kind of collective hug really, because it's hard. So thank you all very much, and take care and see you soon.
Thanks, Eve.
Thanks, Eve.
Bye.
Everybody, have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.
Great seeing you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.